Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Macedonia here, and I wanted to delve into qualitative data sources and show you how I utilized a lot of organizational planning to really help me organize my thinking around my data sources, as well as connecting those data sources to my research methodology, design, and research questions. So, this is a planning document that I use for my dissertation, and I also bring this back in a few weeks. But basically, I first kind of start with my rationale and justification in terms of my study. I review the purpose, and then I delve into my research questions and how I'm going to get this information from my participants. So I really connect my research questions to thinking about the data sources that I'm going to use, because again, I'm going to be utilizing all of my data collected. I'm going to analyze that data, and those findings are going to be reported with each research question that I have. So you want to be really intentional with connecting those data sources to your research questions. So this is the initial planning document that I had. So you see that there's other information in terms of participant recruitment, participants in setting, and then the data sources. So you see that I go into kind of detail around what the data source is, how is it going to be used, and then thinking about what it's actually going to look like. Because again, for your chapter 3, this is really the heart of your dissertation. So when you're a member of your committee or any other audience member that picks up your dissertation and reads chapter 3, they should have a very good understanding about how it is that you're going to go step by step to collect your data, to analyze your data, etc. So you see that within my semi-structured interviews, I talk about how many times that each participant will be interviewed, the purpose of semi-structured interviews, and then the format. And then I'm also going to be using information in terms of how I'm even going to create my interview protocol and what I'm actually going to be look like. So, and I connect this to the research question. So for example, when I'm thinking about roles and responsibilities with school-based administrators, this is directly connected to my research question 1. Another example is my questions are going to be around perceptions of preparation that influence knowledge and skills and practice of school-based administrators, which is connected directly to research questions 2 and 3. Another example of a data source that I'm using is job descriptions. So I wanted to be able to look at the district job description of school-based administrators and ask participants about what they think in terms of alignment, in terms of how their job is described, and how they actually define what it is that they do on a daily basis. And just to give you a few more examples of data sources that I utilized, I use GMU coursework, internship, and syllabi, because again, I'm looking at how these individuals were prepared in their ed leadership programs. I utilize participant focus groups. And again, these data sources are directly connected to the research questions. So for my participant focus group, this is directly geared towards research question 4, which was looking specifically at eliciting recommendations from participants with how to get them to be more prepared to work with special education teachers. And then I go into more detail about field notes and memoing, etc. So with those data sources that I just mentioned, you are then thinking about, well, these are all my data sources. What does this actually look like in terms of my procedures or steps? So then you have to go into it step by step in a very detailed way, because we want the audience to understand, what are you going to do first? What are you going to do second? What are you going to do third? This is really, really important, and this is specifically driven by your research design. And then you go into your qualitative data analysis. So I want to be able to show you what this actually looks like in practice within your proposal. So in terms of data sources, so this is the section in my dissertation proposal that I specifically go into data sources. So again, I'm connecting my data sources with my research design that I'm using. So I'm using a multiple case study design. So I'm utilizing multiple data sources in order to improve data credibility and triangulation for this specific study. And I'll show you my case study protocol that I created, because this actually includes some of the protocols, like my semi-structured interview protocol, as well as my focus group protocol for each of those data sources. So this should look familiar to you. So this is my 4 research questions, and then the data sources that I'm going to use to collect and analyze the data to be able to then report my findings by research question. So then you go into detail talking about each specific data source that you are proposing. So I first talk about semi-structured interviews. So then I talk about, well, what are semi-structured interviews? Why am I using this within my specific study? And then you go into how you are going to go about doing that. So for example, for my semi-structured interviews, I proposed having approximately 6 to 10 questions in the following domains. Again, these domains are purposeful because they are directly correlated to my research questions. And again, I'll show you, I don't want to get you motion sickness, but I will show you. So this is that protocol that I was telling you about. So within this protocol, one of the things I wanted to show you is within my protocol, you see this is my semi-structured interview questions. So this is included in the appendix. So for your proposal, you are going to also include, your semi-structured interview protocol, whatever instruments that you're going to be using. Because I'm using qualitative methodology, I'm actually going to put in my protocol. So I'm going to go back up. I apologize. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Then just another example for participant focus groups. Again, I talk about the purpose of a focus group. Then again, I align the purpose of a focus group to my specific study. So I talk about this is specifically connected to recommendations, which again is connected to my research question number 4, which talks specifically about recommendations for school-based administrators. And again, what's important is that I am creating my prompts or my protocol for my focus groups from analysis of data, as well as previous literature. So it's important that you state that. How are you even going to formulate your protocols for collecting qualitative data? So it's important that you state that. And then if you're going to use additional methods, for example, for this, I specifically said, if I have another focus group, I will do it based on if there's another commonality between participants. So this is just giving you an example of how I'm being very specific for each specific data source that I collect. Because again, for qualitative, it's really important that we delve into what the source is, how it connects to our study, what does it look like in practice, and then something else I really want to focus on as well is how you're actually going to strengthen the trustworthiness of these sources. So when I actually defended my proposal one of the things that my committee members told me that I needed to do was, for example, for my semi-structured interview questions, they asked me, well, are you going to vet your questions with a group of experts? I didn't include that in my proposal, but that's something that I did do for my actual dissertation because it helps to strengthen the trustworthiness. So I can actually show you what that looks like too. Let me just pull that up. Yep, so here is that information. So prior to the interviews, my questions from my semi-structured interviews were vetted by a group of 4 individuals that were considered experts. Again, you have to define, well, what makes them experts in the field? So you see that I collected a lot of information that defines why these individuals were considered experts. So again, this helps to strengthen the trustworthiness of your study. So I am really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with in terms of your data sources for your qualitative data analysis or data collection and analysis.